Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Crowd Chatter podcast. And today will be a May review of the MLB. Now, I would have done this last week, but of course, last week was Memorial Day. Got very and did get a little. I got pretty busy, so was not able to do the video last week. So I'll be doing it this week instead. Um, and speaking of Memorial Day, want to give a look. I just want to give some appreciation to all those who have laid down their lives for this country, who have given us the freedoms that we have. Because the only reason I'm able to do this podcast and we're able to enjoy these sports and enjoy the country that we have is because of those people who laid down their lives just for our country and just for our freedoms. And so I greatly appreciate that. I want to give them a little bit of some recognition before I begin today. And so, well, here we go. We'll start with the American League. Of course, if you guys have watched the previous monthly reviews that I have done on this channel, I reviewed both leagues in two separate videos. So we'll start with the American League, and then we'll do the National League in the next one. So we start with the AL East, and well, the New York Yankees are something else. New York, this team has been on stinking fire. I mean, there really has been their pitching that has been beyond unbelievable. And I looked at their starting pitching and I saw past Garrett Cole, who do they have? But Jameson Taillon, Jordan Montgomery, and Luis Severino have all been very good for the Yankees and have very much carried the torch and led the pitching staff right behind Garrett Cole. And the Yankees don't even have Aroldis Chapman. Their closer is on the IL right now, and they are still 39-15. Unbelievable season, unbelievable start for the Yankees. They're coming off a sweep of the Tigers. Yeah. But no one likes this team, but hey, they're playing well. And I mean, I think a lot of people probably expect them to have at least a decent year, but this is way better than I think most people expected. Very impressive start for the Yankees. Next up, we have the Toronto Blue Jays, a shocking 7.5 games, being the second team in the AL East, and they're 7.5 games behind the Yankees. But the Blue Jays are having a solid year. Pitching has kind of been iffy. Jordan Romano, their closer, has been up and down. He had a great start to the season, but really since then has kind of been up and down. Their starting pitching has honestly not been great. Kevin Gossman's been okay. Jose Barrios has been a major league disappointment until his latest start, of which was honestly pretty good. Not to mention, and they also have Hinu Jin Ryu, who isn't playing well either, and is also hurt. And so they have a nice, trio of pitchers, but they haven't necessarily performed all that well, and that definitely has not helped Toronto's case with their ridiculously good offense that has honestly also been kind of up and down. It has not honestly lived up to the expectations. However, they still find themselves in second in the American League. I don't know where they are in the wild card. They're probably near the top. Yeah, they're actually probably right at the top. But the Blue Jays they're right now in the wild card because if we look at the wild card, because we go to wild card standings, I think the Blue Jays are probably they're the top team by about 4.5 games. So they're more than fine in the wild card, but still not necessarily up to probably expectations for Toronto, but so far not terrible. And then next we have the Tampa Bay Rays, only a half a game behind the Toronto Blue Jays, also easily in the wild card as they are 4 games ahead of the next team, which I don't know who the next team is, maybe Boston. But the Rays, this is another solid team. This isn't nearly as good as last season when they had 100 wins. I mean, it's kind of hard to get 100 wins. I mean, 100 wins is a lot of wins, so I'm not surprised that that the Rays are not on pace to get that number. But Tampa Bay, I mean, they have a solid team. They have a lot of really good players. I mean, you got Randy Arozarena, obviously, Wander Franco. They got some nice hitters, and then you also got Shane McClanahan, who's been really good as a starter for Tampa Bay. You also got Shane Baz, who I think is hurt right now, but that's another big prospect. But Tampa has a solid team. This is a solid team all around. You got some good players all over, and we'll see where Tampa goes. But so far, I think they'll definitely be in the conversation for a wild card. 5-5 in their last 10 games. Both the Blue Jays and the Yankees have been 8-2. But 500 in the last 5 games. I think that'll probably be where you see Tampa. They're not going to get anywhere near 100 wins, but they'll be in the conversation for a wild card spot. Next, we have the Boston Red Sox, directly at 500 at 27-27. They have been a lot better. They had a very slow start to the season. They were not playing well. Trevor Story was not playing well, which was their biggest free agent acquisition. And, well, he has all of a sudden caught fire, and he has been unbelievable as of lately. And the pitching for Boston has been a little bit better. And really, the entire team has just been a little bit better. 6-4 in their last 10 games. You can see they also have won 4 straight. But Boston has been significantly better. And that's the big thing for Boston. As they continue to play better, Chris Sale is working his way coming back to the lineup, which will be another big addition for the Red Sox, assuming they can get it. I really think an interesting thing for Boston it would be if they went out and got themselves Luis Castillo as a starting pitcher. Toronto could do it too. There's a lot of teams that can go and get Luis Castillo, but trade deadline stuff that's for another day. But Boston, solid team, all around has a good team. We'll see how they do, but this is a good Boston team. They have a solid squad. We knew that they were a good team, and well, they're finally starting to maybe live up to that. Baltimore Orioles sitting in last place in the AL East at 23-33. That's not really much of a. That isn't a surprise. Everyone expected Baltimore to be last in this division. They've been a bit better, especially specifically from last year. But this is a Baltimore team that's stuck in one of the toughest divisions in all of baseball, and they are easily the worst team in that division. And so when you got to play teams all the time like New York, Toronto, Tampa, and Boston, that's a lot of tough. That's a ton of tough games for Baltimore. So I'm not surprised by their record. They have a bunch of prospects coming up. Obviously, Audley Rutschman. I don't know how the last name's pronounced. I think it's Rutschman. But, of course, big-time prospect at catcher. He has moved up. Grayson Rodriguez is their big-time prospect at pitcher. He now had like a muscle injury of some sort, so he's going to be out for a while. Big blow for the Orioles. But this is a team that has, honestly, a lot of like interesting players on the offensive end. They got guys like Trey Mancini, who they can easily trade away and get something for. Anthony Santander or Austin Hayes has been decent for them. They have nice play. Ryan Mountcastle. They have good players on the offensive end. So they have some good pieces and parts. And it's just a matter of of their young guys coming up and developing. And Baltimore, in a couple of years, should end up being a decent team. But right now, yeah, they're not there yet. So now we go to the AL Central, which has been kind of a mess. No, it is a mess this year. We start with the top team, which is the Minnesota Twins, who have definitely probably exceeded expectations for most people. I thought that they were that this team was either going to be really good or was going to be like at the top or completely going to flop. and right now they're right at the top. 32-24, 32-24, not a bad record. But this is a team, that took a lot of chances on a lot of different guys. And the big thing for the Twins has also been the fact that Byron Buxton has actually stayed healthy for the majority of the year. And so they are doing they are limiting the amount of games that he plays so that he stays healthy as much as possible. But, Byron Buxton has a ton of potential. He's a really good outfielder, really good as a player in general. And so the more he stays healthy, I mean, that's a great player that Minnesota can add to its roster. And then you have, of course, you have Carlos Correa, who currently is out right now with, with COVID. I think he actually has COVID, so he's been out for a while. But of course, you got Correa, you got Gio Urshela, Gary Sanchez, all on the offensive end. You also got yourself, I can't come up with his name for some. Oh yes, Luis Arias, which has really been a surprise for them. Very versatile player and has been great in terms of hitting. Um, he has not done anything on. He has not hit a lot of homers, but he has a great batting average, and I think he's a perfect leadoff guy for the Twins. I mean, he gets on base. I mean, he's hitting about 360, 370. There's no reason why that guy should not be your leadoff man. But Minnesota has a solid team, and their starting rotation's been pretty good. Guys like Chris Archer, Dylan Bundy, and Sonny Gray have all honestly been decent. They've all had their fair share of not great starts. Sonny Gray had been really good until his recent injury, which is a killer for the Twins. And of course, also Joe Ryan, their big time prospect in the trade with Nelson Cruz, and they sent him to the Rays. And last year's trade deadline, Joe Ryan has very much produced for the Twins this year. He's been a big addition for them. So Minnesota definitely has been pretty good. We'll see if they continue to produce, but not a bad start. Good start for Minnesota. Very impressed. Their chances have definitely so far paid off. We'll see if it continues to go that way. Next, we have the Cleveland Guardians. I just say Cleveland because I avoid saying either name, but you got Cleveland sitting at 24-25, 4.5 games behind Minnesota. This is an interesting team as well because Cleveland definitely has a lot of talent in terms of pitching. They got Cy Young award candidate in Shane Bieber, and then you got Tristan McKenzie and Aaron Savali, who are both young pitchers who definitely have some talent. And then you also got Emmanuel Clase, who's another really young pitcher and has a great closer. And so Cleveland, once again, like they always have, they've had this for the past 5, 6, 7 years, is great pitching. Their pitching is fantastic. And then you go to the offensive end, and there's nothing. Now, of course, Cleveland has Jose Ramirez, and that's one of the best hitters there is in the game. But then, other than that, they don't have anything. Franmil Reyes is supposed to be a big time hitter for them this year. And not only is he now hurt, but even when he was healthy, he's been horrible. I mean, his strikeout rate's like 40%, which is not good. If you guys know baseball, that's a horrible number. And his average is barely even, I think, above is like 130, maybe. I don't know, but he's not been good. And then you have the outfield, who has been kind of up and down. They've had some good moments, some bad moments. You got, of course, Miles Straw and Stephen Kwan and Mercado. All of them have had good points during the year and not so good points. But Cleveland's been all over the place. And it's really, if Cleveland wants to succeed, it's going to come down to what they can get on the offensive end. Because you can see the number in terms of pitching. They have been very good with shutting down opponents. That's not the issue. It's honestly this number, which the run differential is almost as good as Minnesota. So you can see they're doing pretty good. But it's going to come down to how much can they put up and can they score runs? And that's kind of a theme actually in this entire division is lackadaisical offense. But Cleveland specifically, there's going to have to be more offense that comes from not just Jose Ramirez. And you've gotten some from Miles Straw, and for a period of time, you got some from Stephen Kwan. Mercado hasn't really done anything. Owen Miller's been kind of on and off. And you've also had, of course, you also have Franmil Reyes, who was supposed to be big and has not lived up to the hype. So that's a big loss as well for Cleveland with him not producing. But it's definitely going to come down to Cleveland. Can they score? Can they put up points? Because if they do, they'll definitely win games. But otherwise, they're going to have some troubles. Right behind them, only a half a game behind Cleveland, is the Chicago White Sox at 25 and 27. They're 5 games behind Minnesota. This team has been a major league disappointment, and that's also kind of a theme with the Central. But the Chicago White Sox, this was a team that was expected to run away with the AL Central, blow everybody else away. Instead, they're sitting at 25 and 27, basically a game below 2 games below 500. Um, and their offense has just been stagnant. This offense has been a major league disappointment. Of course, you have Dylan Cease at starting pitcher, who has been very good. You also got Lucas Giolito and Lance Lynn. That is a very good trio of pitchers. Lance Lynn has not come in yet, but when he does, I'm sure he'll be a fine pitcher. He was last year. But Lucas Giolito has had some good starts. He's obviously a really good pitcher as well. Dylan Cease has been absolutely incredible this year. And then you have, of course, Kendall Graveman as the setup man, who's a good reliever, and then the closer is one of the best in the game, who has not produced either, Liam Hendricks. And so that's a big problem for Chicago when your bullpen really when Liam Hendricks has kind of been up and down. The beginning of his season was horrible. I don't know what he's been doing lately, but he definitely has not been what Chicago was hoping for. And Kendall Graveman, he's been okay. And then the starting pitching has been, okay. But for Chicago, the offense has just been beyond brutal. And Tim Anderson was really the only player for him that had been hitting. And I'm not going to go over the whole Josh Donaldson, Tim Anderson bit. But Chicago, now, because Tim Anderson was probably their only player that was really hitting all that well, and now he's on the IL, and so they don't have anyone really who's getting hits from, who's getting runs for them, and it's showing. And so for Chicago, once again, it's basically a repeat of Cleveland. If they're gonna win games, they're gonna have to score some runs. They're gonna have to. Their offense is gonna have to pick it up. And I mean, that number is, well, we'll go over this number in a moment, but Chicago, I mean, that's not a good number. And of course, like I said, the one below it's a lot worse, but that's definitely not a good number. You need to get some more runs on the board, and with your starting pitching being the way that it is, I mean, you have good pitching, but it's not going to be able to. But you have to score. You have to have some offense because you can't win with 0 runs. You know what I'm saying? You can't win with 0 runs. You're likely not going to win with 1 run or really even 2, 3's pushing it. So that's going to be the thing for Chicago. They need some more offense. That offense needs to get better, really. Well, and here we go. Our Detroit Tigers at 21 and 33. This team they're really frustrating. I watched this off. I mean, this has probably been the most I have watched the Tigers in quite some time because I'd had it with the Tigers, with them losing constantly, being the worst team. I didn't want to see my favorite team because I love Detroit. I love the Tigers. I've always been a Tigers fan, but I didn't want to see the Tigers constantly losing. It drove me nuts. I didn't like it. You know, it's not enjoyable to watch your favorite team just lose constantly. And that's what they had been doing for the past couple of years, of course. So I just got not as interested. But this year, this is a team that definitely had some expectations going into the season when they got guys like Javi Baez and Austin Meadows, and everyone likes Eduardo Rodriguez. I don't, but Eduardo Rodriguez, and they end up getting Michael Pineda too, who had a pretty good season for the Twins last year, so they definitely came into the season with, some expectations. I wouldn't say they came into the year like expecting to be one of the, top teams in the league or anything, but this is definitely a team that came into the year with expectations, and they have gone severely below that number. Now, I will contribute some of it to injuries, as the Tigers have just been ravaged by injuries. Most of those have come in terms of starting pitching, but they've also been dealing with some injuries on the offensive end, with really the entire outfield being gone because of injury. I mean, Robbie Grossman is out with, I think, a neck injury of some sort. Austin Meadows has been out for nearly a month with vertigo. We're missing Keel Badu. Well, he got sent down to AAA, but he also got hurt in AAA. And then we're missing Victor Reyes. He got hurt. I don't like Victor Reyes, but he got hurt. So, it's another injury. And so we had to bring up Daz Cameron, and we're so low on outfield that we had to turn Willie Castro into an outfielder, and we had to bring somebody else up from AAA so he can try and fill in the outfield. And so really the only two outfielders we have are Daz Cameron. Really, the two real outfielders we have are Daz Cameron and Derek Hill, and that's it. And those are not normal starters. The normal starters are, well, it was supposed to be Badu. I guess technically Hill is now, um, but normally it was supposed to. Normally it would have been Badu, Meadows, and Grossman, and now we're at Derek Hill, Daz Cameron, and then fill in the blank. I mean, so it's been a mess in the outfield with all the injuries that have come. We are expecting to have Austin Meadows back soon, though, so that'll be big for the Tigers. And then the pitching has just been a disaster. Now, this number has shown that they have a crud ton of depth, because that's a pretty good number to be giving up with the amount of injuries the Tigers have had. I mean, Casey Mize, IL, Matt Manning, IL, Michael Pineda, IL, Eduardo Rodriguez, IL, Tyler Alexander, IL. I think somebody else is on the IL too. But the entire starting rotation, minus one guy, of which Skubal was actually hurt for a little bit too, but he didn't end up missing his start. But all of those guys except for Skubal have hit the IL and are missing multiple starts, and none of them are back yet, which is the even crazier part to this. I don't know anything. I don't see anything on Tyler Alexander even being back, so I have no idea what's happening with him. Oh, and I'm sorry, I missed that one too. We have no Spencer Turnbull for the entire season, so that's a sixth guy of which the Tigers have sitting on the IL. So you can see what the Tigers are dealing with in terms of injuries. I mean, that's six starters, all of which are not playing. And so we had to bring up Bayu Brisky, who, I mean, honestly, his starts have been decent, but the guy doesn't know how to keep the ball in the field. I mean, my gosh, he's given up probably about 15 homers by now. And Alex Vallejo has been decent. He hasn't been bad. He brought in Elvin Rodriguez. His start against the Yankees was awful. We tried even bringing up Joey Wentz for another game after his atrocity against the Athletics. His game actually I think was decent, but it's just a disaster right now in terms of starting pitching. Now Tariq Skubal has been awesome, and I mean he's had an incredible season, but you need health. And even our bullpen has had some issues with injuries, with Jose Cisnero being hurt. with Jose Cisnero being hurt. We also had Andrew Chafin hurt for a little bit. You know, we have been missing tons of people in terms of starting pitching. Now our bullpen has gotten mostly healthy. And I mean, Alex Lang and you know, you got a nice trio for the Tigers and Alex. Oh, actually, honestly, group of four with Alex Lang, Gregory Soto, Michael Fulmer, and Andrew Chafin, and all of them have honestly been pretty good. But you know, for the Tigers, it's gonna come down to just getting healthy and also the offense. I mean that's the underline. That's the this is a number that everybody is gonna look at because that I'm pretty sure. I mean, if I can quick take a look here, yeah, this number, the Tigers here at 150 runs scored for the entire season, mind you. This is the worst total. This is the worst total of runs scored by 35 runs. Yeah. So that should tell you enough about how bad this Tiger offense has been. And you know, like I said, we got two big time offensive acquisitions over the off season with Austin Meadows and Javi Baez. And as I said earlier, Meadows hit the IL with vertigo, and he's been out for a month. He's expected, I think, maybe to come back tomorrow, but who knows? And Baez, he had a decent start, but he's been brutal as of lately. He's not even above 200 anymore. And so that's where the issue comes in. And that's the next issue for the Tigers. I'm pretty sure if you looked at their entire starting lineup in terms of hitting, nobody for the Tigers except for Miguel Cabrera, who's hitting about 288, and then the Castros. Nobody else for the Tigers is hitting above 200. Every single other player, or if they are hitting above 200, it's like 210. Everybody else is not even above that number. And that's the scary part. That they have been that bad offensively. So that's where I say for the Tigers, get some offense. I mean, I don't know what you have to do to try and improve that offense, but something has to change. I don't know if it's the hitting coach. I don't know if it's just maybe we don't have great hitters. Maybe we need to, you know, I mean, Jonathan Scope has been brutal. He's been better lately, but at one point he was hitting like 140. He's now at, I think, about close to 200. Might be even above 200. I don't know. Candelario is another major league disappointment. Spencer Torkelson has not been the big time prospect we all expected. I'm waiting for the time when Riley Green might end up coming up to the majors. That's going to be a big day for the Tigers. But this is a Tigers team that just they need offensive capability, and we didn't see it against the Yankees. I mean, we saw what happened against the Yankees. We got swept, and that is the best team in baseball. But we saw what happened: 13-0, 3-0, and then lost in extras 5-4. Which was there was some really bad offensive and defensive play there by the Tigers. That was quite an embarrassing game to be playing on the Sunday leadoff game on Peacock. But this Tiger team, it's very frustrating and very disappointing. So we are hoping for a ton of improvement from this Tiger team as soon as possible. And our next series is against the Pittsburgh Pirates, so let's hope we get better against that team because we know they suck just as bad as us. Next, we got the Kansas City Royals. Yeah, Kansas City Royals. Almost said Chiefs. Kansas City Royals sitting at somehow worse than the Tigers at 17-35. They're 3 games behind the Tigers. Yeah, this team's bad. There's really no other way of playing it. The offense is not good. You know, Carlos Santana was really bad in terms of hitting anyway, but Carlos Santana, he's hurt. And even when he wasn't hurt, he was not hitting well. He was walking, like he always does, but his average was significantly terrible. Salvador Perez is currently hurt, bringing in MJ Melendez. But Salvador Perez has a big loss for the for the Royals, not having Sally. Of course, they're also Bobby Witt Jr., the number one prospect in all of baseball. The Tigers are the number two prospect in Torkelson, but being the number one prospect in all of baseball, Bobby Witt Jr. came into this season. He's been better than Torkelson. He's been about 227, 230 ish. He's been kind of sitting there for the majority of the season, which I mean isn't like great numbers, but certainly better than 180, 190 of what Torkelson's been hitting. But the Royals, the offense has not really been good. And Whit Merrifield has not produced, has been bad early. I think he's gotten a little bit better as of late. But for the Royals, their offense has not been good, and their pitching has been brutal. And since their only good pitcher is nearly 40-year-old Zach Greinke, yeah, that's the reason why their pitching is brutal. And so it doesn't surprise me that the Royals are this bad. I would expect them to probably be among the worst teams in baseball because they don't have a lot of talent on that team, and they're just going to continue to get worse and worse probably throughout the year. Not really all that much of a surprise for me, Kansas City. So now we move on to the AL West. We have the Houston Astros, very much atop of this division at 35-19. They had a slower start, but since that point, they've been a lot better. They've been much better. Part of that is probably due to the fact that Jose Altuve has just gone bananas. Since coming back from his IL stint, he just went went off, and there was no stopping him. Of course, Houston they have a nice rotation as well. Justin Verlander has come back for them this year, and he's been incredible. And he has honestly, I mean, he hasn't looked like the old JV. The old JV would be uh, collecting like 10 strikeouts a game. He's still been incredible, but the strikeouts aren't necessarily the greatest. But he has been absolutely incredible. He's certainly having probably what's going to be close to another Cy Young candidacy. If he wants to win it, he'd probably have to get more strikeouts, but he's definitely. This is way better than I think most people expected for JV. And of course, they also have Framber Valdez. He's been pretty good. They have Jose Urquidy too. Christian Javier, I think, has been decent. And then they have Ryan Presley, who's a really good closer. So their pitching's been good. You have the hitting with Jose Altuve, Michael Brantley, Alex Bregman, Kyle Tucker, Jordan Alvarez. There's a great offense, and they have a great team. And, it's not a surprise to see them playing as well as they are. So, Houston Astros, not surprised by their success early. Very much kind of what I expected. LA Angels. Holy cow, I did not realize they had been that bad. This team had a very hot start to the year. Apparently, it's not been good as of late. But the Angels sitting now at 27-28. As you can see here, they've lost 11 straight. Yeah, that's not good. But for the Angels, this is a team that it lacked pitching and it lacked a ton of hitting. And I saw the year start for the Angels, and then they got off to a really hot start. I'm like, where the heck are they getting their offense from? Because this team has a good closer. They have Raciel Iglesias. He had a really good year last year. He's considered one of the top closers, but he's been really good. And they also took a chance on Noah Syndergaard, and he hasn't been the old Thor, but he's been good. And of course, you have Shohei Ohtani, who's Obviously, one of the best players probably in the game, might be the best player in the game with his outstanding hitting and his solid pitching. Being a two-way player the way that he is, you can't find in baseball. So, very valuable player, very good player. Um, and so Tani has definitely been key to the Angels. Mike Trout has been unbelievable for them. And you got guys like Brandon Marsh and Jared Walsh who are, just okay players who just kind of popped up this year. And Walsh had a good year last year, but he was doing it again this year. I've never heard of Brandon Marsh, but whoever that was doing pretty good. Taylor Ward, some outfielder for him, was doing well. So, random guys that had not ever really done anything in their careers um, coming in for the Angels and playing well. And then it didn't go so well for them, I guess, in the last 11 games, as they've now lost 11 straight. Obviously, not good. Really not good. So, I'd say for the Angels, this is a team that definitely kind of came into the season with, some expectations. Definitely was looking to make some noise. And an 11-game losing streak here is definitely a killer. And so I don't know what the Angels could do to try and fix it. I think definitely this is where another trade for maybe Luis Castillo would make sense. I mean, honestly, the Reds are going to trade Luis Castillo. It's a matter of which team he goes to, because everybody is going to want Castillo. I mean, the guy is 29 years old. He's right in the middle of his prime. He's a good pitcher. He's a good player. He has shown that he's a good player. And so any team pitcher needy, especially the Angels, or maybe even the Blue Jays, or Boston, or somebody else, a team that is pitcher needy is going to trade from. So it's a matter of, for me, of just which team is going to do it. But for the Angels, an 11-game losing streak here, not ideal. This kind of reminds me of the Cubs. I went over them last year, and they had like a really long losing streak too. I think it actually was like a 10-game losing streak, or maybe it was 11. I don't know. But not a good stretch here for the Angels. Texas Rangers sitting at 25 and 28. This team had some expectations going into the year, not a ton, but they had probably the highest pay. I mean, honestly, I think their middle infield might cost more than Oakland's entire team. But the Texas Rangers, I mean, really, their team has rested upon the shoulders of Marcus Simeon and Corey Seager. The rest of their team is just kind of there. I don't really know much about Texas other than those two guys. And Corey Seager's been good, and Marcus Simeon has been terrible. So, and then they're right around 500. So, I mean, I guess that kind of makes sense. But this Texas team is not great. They're still in need of a good amount of good players before they can think about contending. I mean, you got guys like Jack Leiter who are very much still in the bottom of the minors who need to move up. I mean, obviously they just drafted Leiter, but they're gonna need guys to move up. They're gonna need their young guys to come in and make plays and be good for them, and specifically pitching. But you know, not bad for Texas. I don't see them making the playoffs this year. It's gonna take them a little bit before they can find the MLB playoffs. Seattle Mariners. This team has been a disappointment. 24 and 30 for the Seattle Mariners. They're 11 games behind the Astros, only 2.5 behind the Angels, and then another 1.5 behind the Rangers. Seattle has not played well. And, their outfield has two big prospects, in Julio Rodriguez and Jared Kelenic. Jared Kelenic has been a major disappointment. He has been horrible. And he was so bad in the majors again this year that he got dropped back down to AAA once again. And he's he had a horrible start and even in AAA, but he's been a lot better as of late and is starting to dominate again. And then Julio Rodriguez, he jumped up to the outfield. He jumped up and he's been good. I mean, his average has been solid. He has certainly produced, and he has been stealing bases like crazy. So I think Julio Rodriguez will turn into a really good outfielder for the Seattle Mariners. I would not be surprised to see Rodriguez really be good for Seattle coming in a few years. They also have a really good pitcher, Logan Gilbert, young pitcher who came up for the Mariners. They also got like George Kirby, who's come up for them, has been pretty good. Um, Seattle has a lot of young players who are all coming up at the same time. And so this team did come into the year with expectations, but it's kind of been up and down for Seattle. A lot of moving pieces, a couple of young guys who didn't end up producing, and a couple of young guys who have been. So I think this is still like a kind of thumbing through what Seattle needs to do. It could really they got thrown into a mess last year because last year they expected to just tank, and then they end up being like above 500 and find themselves in playoff contention, and they're like, oh. Okay, I guess we'll try and win. And then they didn't end up, and they fell short, I think, 2 games out of the wild card. Now this year, they haven't really been that special. So it's definitely been probably a little confusing for Seattle as they thought, oh, ooh, maybe we have a chance to compete. And so they start trying to win now. And now their team's not producing. They're like, well, what do we do now? So very interesting situation for the Mariners. But this is a team that definitely has some talent and kind of like the Tigers, they're trying to exit their rebuilding stage, and so it's going to take some maturity from their young players, guys like Jared Kelenic specifically. It'll take some maturity from those guys to be able to win, and so we'll see if Seattle can get that going. Next, we have the Oakland Athletics sitting at 20-36. Not really a surprise here. The last in the division. Oakland just doesn't ever make sense to anybody's brain. They continue to they get close to the playoffs and then they don't make it. They just send away everybody and then just start over for no apparent reason. It's like, well, you're just like right there in the wild card spot. Why on earth would you do that? It just Oakland is such a mess. They don't even have like a great stadium. They can't move out of the stadium. Everything's just a mess over with the Oakland right now. This team's not good. They don't have much talent. They're trying to even trade away their last good player was Frankie Montas. They lost 6 straight. They're only 1-9 their last 10 games. It's not a good look for Oakland. It never really has been. And it's going to be a struggle for the A's to really be able to succeed if they continue to play the way that they are. So that's it for me. I'll see you guys in the next one. Next will be the National League. I'll also have a video today on the NBA Finals. I missed 2 games, but I will have that one as well. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios, everyone.